panel, senior partner and owner of the law offices of Adam M. Thompson. It's open. Adam M. Thompson. And also criminal defense attorney Janet Johnson. Let me ask you about what we heard a lot about, Janet. Let me start with you. The militarization of the military. We heard Rand Paul wrote a piece for an op-ed for Time talking about how we have to demilitarize the police forces in the country. I mean, you know, to me, being specific to what we saw the other night, 2 nights ago in Ferguson, there were riots prior to that. There was looting and rioting and burning, and that night, the police were facing off with people who eventually threw Molotov cocktails at them and bricks at them, injured officers. I don't have a problem with, in that kind of situation, cops showing force. I don't buy the accusation that the cops intimidated these people into throwing Molotov cocktails at them.
Well, they have guns. I mean, if you want to talk about intimidation, that's militarization right there. The police are armed with guns. I mean, I have friends who are lawyers in England arguing this is why we don't let our police carry guns. I mean, you could argue they're militarized from the get-go because they have guns and not, you know, little sticks. So, you know, I don't really get that either. Just because you give them weaponry doesn't mean they're going to use it or have to use it in a bad way. I think the Ferguson Police Department, if there's a fault, it isn't with their equipment, it's with their personnel or it's with their chief. I mean, it comes from the top. It's how they're instructed to use them. It's not what they have. It's not their arsenal.
Adam?
I've been doing civil rights cases for over 25 years, and listen, people have a right to assemble, they have a right to protest, they have a right to their free speech through the First Amendment. But all those are based on doing it lawfully and peacefully, without violence. When a situation gets to the point where a crowd becomes violent, the police has to use whatever crowd control tactics they understand and were trained on to break up those violent people, pull them out from the crowd if they can, and let the peaceful people continue protesting. If that can't be done, then it has to go to another level, and that's when you see more advanced police tactics being used. Is it militarization? Maybe. I'm against that. I'm not a fan of that at all. I don't want to see armored cars coming down our streets. But in some cases, it has to be advanced police tactics used. How far that goes, that's the question for debate now.
Although, guys...
All right, let me ask you. Go ahead.
Well, then the next night when they didn't do that, everything was much more peaceful. So, I mean, I do think that they had to set an atmosphere. When they got the PR memo that didn't look good to arrest reporters and to basically treat this like a war zone, they did get a better result. So I think that speaks volumes.
Well, they got a better result because some would say they also put a black officer in charge of the situation, which brings me to this. Christopher Parker, Professor Christopher Parker, who will join us later on a pre-taped interview, said that he'd like to see black police black areas. Janet, what's your feeling on that?
You know, I think it's a little simplistic, but I do think the numbers in Ferguson seem to be the reverse of the population. I think percentage-wise, it would be healthy if it reflects a percentage of the population. I don't think, you know, you can say black people should police black people, white people should police white people, but I think it should be reflective of the community. I think it's 40%, 60% black.
Yeah. Well, let me ask Adam. Adam, the problem is, like here in New York City, oh, there's only X percent firefighters who are black. How many applied? How many want to be it? How many didn't make it? How many were turned down? Without knowing how many people applied and were turned down, the numbers are meaningless, are they not?
They are, and the big issue is really this. No matter who's doing the job, if they're properly trained and have good intentions, the job should be done well with no issues. The issue comes into play where you have good cops and bad cops. You want to eliminate the bad cops. It doesn't matter what race they are. Would it help if there's more of a racial equality in those divisions? Sure.
All right, Adam and Janet, thank you very much for being on the panel. Have a great weekend, and we'll be back with Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson, ladies and gentlemen, right after the break. But first, this hour's American Moment. And you know what we're going to do? Take a look back at the opening of the Panama Canal.
It took 34 years to build, but on August 15th, 1914, the Panama Canal was officially opened for business and was quickly crowned one of the 7 wonders of the modern world. The 51-mile-long and 10-mile-wide canal was originally begun by the French, but abandoned after 9 years and the loss of over 20,000 of their workers from disease-infected jungles. President Theodore Roosevelt believed the completion of the canal was essential to American security and prosperity. So he negotiated with the French to purchase the canal's properties and dredging equipment. But when negotiations with Colombia over a canal treaty broke down, Roosevelt backed a local bloodless revolution that lasted only a few hours. And on November 3, 1903, the nation of Panama was born. With the opening of the Panama Canal, the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans were joined, reducing a ship's journey from New York to San Francisco by 9,000 miles. Roosevelt's vision made the canal a reality, and the feat helped make America a world power. You're watching An American Moment on Newsmax TV.